Coming from a lovely restaurant and another church I didn't catch, past this very dilapidated building. A couple of military types just passed me for some reason, making me think I'm once again the main character in a spy movie. I just wanted to look at the tawdry remains of this building. The windows have been screened off, keep the pigeons out. You can see prior arches up there. A lovely building opposite it. Here are the remains of still another building, gutted. Who knows how long ago and for why. And there, that church in the distance. We're wandering over to it before I go back to the hostel this evening. I'm wondering whether this curved wall that has continuous gun ports in it and the same brick design that I've seen elsewhere could in fact have been part of the old city wall. Here, a little bit of insight into something. What I don't know. Was this originally a brick building so that that peak and its three triple arches, redundant, was once exposed and was considered to be the prime desired exterior. Notice also that little round hole for a window, and maybe that one over there at least reflects the past. A library, and perhaps still another church. What you have to love about old cities like this one, that unfortunately just so recently, relatively speaking, liberated from its oppressive past, is that there's so much left to see of what once was, in some form, some shape, not always pleasant. And there, another example across the street. You can't go far in this city without running across another church. Certainly you can see it if you're not standing beside one. While a cross reigns at the top of this building, these two large anchors reign at the bottom. This is St. Ignatius Church, nicely repainted and purposely left unadorned beside it. This one, me, a non-Lithuanian person, I don't know what this courtyard is for, but it's pretty interior area. As we can presume from this little jaunt alone, that every pretty building is an old one, newly cemented over. Of course, I don't know where I'm at, but the area behind me is dense with bars and restaurants and a couple of reasonably nice little squares with people gathered about, having drinks, etc. This is St. Kotrinos, or in English perhaps St. Catherine's. It looks like that top tower on the right has a date 1743 underneath it. Yep. This is a pretty either entry or chapel or capella. Gotta love it. Got its own little playmate, of course. It's like a selling kiosk. It is. This man here is operating it, so it's a traveling little snack place to entice kids into buying stuff. The traffic never seems that intense. Perhaps not that many people own cars. We're down this street and then we have to hang a right somewhere, although it'll intersect my main street eventually. Oh, I know where I am. I'm back at that long green arch on the map, narrow, which is that divided street, divided by a lovely park and bikeway, where I had my, what's called a donut this morning. Pleasant walkway, taken advantage by many tonight. A lovely spring night. Now tightly encroached by buildings probably on all sides, jammed right up against the original structure and hiding it. 1555, whatever it is. As usual, I'm taking a different street back from where I knew my location. Everywhere there are restaurants and bars, cafes, very much like Asian retail stores. You wonder how anybody makes enough money to survive. But here we run across a pretty park. Some park art. Of doing what I do is you end up making connections. Where that couple just walked out of is one of the streets to the right there that formed part of the Jewish ghetto in the Second World War. And there's All Saints Church. Recognize this intersection from this morning. Now perhaps somewhere down here is or was the main entrance to the ghetto, but we're not told that. This is the Hall, Halle, like Les Halles in Paris, except not as extravagant, and with a somewhat European 19th century building, but I don't think it is originally from there, but it may be. It's of simpler design if it is. Vegetables, some clothing. Behind me is a whole new modern structure that houses more like department store things. This section is all various kinds of sausages. It's interesting the array of different kinds of processed meat that are provided here. This one reminds me of something I think my mother used to make. And like in all cultures, if you know what it is you're looking at, you have your mom's recipes to use these things. And like that thin sausage, you wonder what that is used for. This, of course, looks like classic pepperoni and so forth. It's too heavily laden with fat for me. To me, they look ugly. To a person who lives in this culture, they look tasty, mouth-watering. The cheese center. There are different kinds of cheeses. Interesting, that design that they come in. Perhaps just a tradition to make them recognizable. See, this is a very modern structure. This is not your classic old line grand city market. The EU controls a great deal of whatever is going to happen anymore. The goodies you can get in the bakery shop, and you've got to come back and try this. This looks like a killer combination of cinnamon roll with chocolate. This is just unimaginably decadent looking. And this looks like a large pie version of what I had yesterday at the donut shop. Here, a chocolate covered waffle. An earlier shop and how Mom used to make things. Were these pictures from America or Europe, or were they essentially the same either way? It's probably the different sauces or makings of sauces that you could put on, or oils that you can cook a lot of this meat with. Some of this is pretty generic, but some of it might be rather esoteric. Kinds of honey. To those who are real aficionados of honey, where it comes from can be vitally important. These are forest honey. There are vegetables here. You can somewhat buy these in the main grocery store. Here's another meat market. Probably fresh meats of all kinds down here. This whole section devoted to vegetables and fruits. Some cherries. Whether these come from here or not, I don't know. or whether they have the same distribution system as our major chains, i.e. the entire world. Let the blueberries grow too big. Grapefruits, this looks like papaya. Mango, a bunch of dried fruits. Berries and nuts. Red shop. It's pretty much kind of a regular supermarket with specific little teeny sections. A restaurant for those who work here, but also for those who will visit, like the tourist buses when they unload those later this morning.